Hello and welcome back to Life.ev, a podcast that dives deep into exploring values. This is episode number 45. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker. I lead an air conditioning company, Nova, and Pure Blue, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Every Saturday at 11 a.m., join us for conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey, uncover our true purpose, and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.ev, where we explore values in life and business. And as usual, I have got Vivek Asrani with me. Hi, Vivek. Welcome back.
Hey Ajit, hi. Always good to be back on your show. How are you doing?
Absolutely good, Vivek. To our viewers, Vivek Asrani is a driving force behind Camo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. Now, for close to 4 years, he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. These insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time, Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought provoking read is available on Amazon and on his website, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional life. In today's episode of Life.tv, we are delving into dealing with our insecurities. Vivek, let's hear your reflections on this.
Ajit, all of us have faced moments of insecurity in our personal and professional life. And really, our deep seated insecurity comes from the need for always being in security. We always want to be secure in everything that we are doing. So, I really thought about this, and in my book, in that reflection, uh, I have talked about six different causes for our insecurities. The first is our vulnerabilities make us insecure. When we realize that we are vulnerable in certain parts, areas of our life, we just feel that we're not good enough to do something, or we feel that we could get hurt because of our vulnerability. So that kind of, in a way, makes us insecure. Second is our ego makes us insecure. The need to always get the approval of others and to look good to the outside world puts that pressure on us, and we feel insecure when we find that our ego is not uh, getting in a way massaged, or in a way, as I would say, that we're not getting the validation that we've been looking for, so it makes us insecure. The third is change makes us insecure because we've never handled a particular situation or new situation, and I think for all of us in the world, COVID was a case in point. But whenever there's change, it makes us insecure because status quo changes. And when status quo changes, it changes to something which is very often new, different, unknown. And the fear of the unknown makes us insecure. The fourth was the fear of losing makes us insecure. I think ever since we were kids, we would play games and be competitive in that. And then you get into your professional and business life. And there's always this win lose paradigm that we tend to live with. So the fear of losing, because partly it's got consequences for us internally, and partly it's also the way we look out there. So that makes us insecure. Fifth is, when we are dependent on somebody, that dependency makes us insecure because for any reason, if that person is no longer in our life, we feel that without that person we will not be able to manage. And the last is attachments make us insecure. uh, just the sheer thought of not having something, particularly again people, we're just so attached to them, and we feel, we say that my life revolves around that, or my heart and my life is in that. So not having that is not even something I can fathom or think about. So these were the six things that I spoke about: vulnerability, ego, change, losing, dependency, and our attachments. Now, it's all very well to identify where our insecurity comes from. The question then is, so how does one deal with it, and how do you manage and handle this kind of insecurity? So, herein, I think lies that there is one root answer for all six. It's not like these six insecurities have got six different solutions. And I go back to a very often quoted metaphor metaphor which I personally love. The darkness is dispelled with light. So similarly, our insecurities, Ajit, go with knowledge. When we understand the way the world functions, and when we understand that things will not always go the way we want it to go, uh, the outcome may not be in our control, but the way we put in our effort, that is very much in our control. It pretty much, removes the insecurity to say, look, the law of this is the law of the universe. So there's no point in me being insecure about, for example, if I'm dependent on someone, uh, no one's going to be in my life forever. So I can't live with this sense of dependency always, right? And or let's take my vulnerabilities. Okay, so I may be vulnerable in a few areas today, but logically, then I need to do something about it to strengthen myself to remove the insecurity. So once the knowledge creeps in, then uh, the insecurity goes away. And the last thing I'll say to this point, Ajit, is that then when we reflect on our insecurities, we realize that they are really opportunities for change. Every time I'm feeling insecure, it is demonstrating or bringing to my conscious awareness a weakness or an inadequacy within. But that also means that's an area of attention, need, focus to further strengthen. So, viewed positively, our insecurities draw our attention to areas we need to focus on and further strengthen ourselves. And they then become stepping stones and opportunities for internal change, which then brings about uh, a fabulous external change for us out there.
Awesome. But Vivek, do you have some personal experiences on insecurities you faced, and would you be happy to share it? How you managed and overcome it
Hmm.
uh, in work, in life, whatever.
So, interestingly, Ajit, and I say this with all humility, I've never had any personal insecurities, in terms of relationships or family or friends. Never had an insecurity over there. But so I'll take this more in a business context. There, yes, I have lived with, certain insecurities. And let me talk about two insecurities that I had lived with. First was the insecurity of setting up a new factory. I'd never done it before. It was a project which threw me completely out of my comfort zone. It was larger than what I had even envisaged, and therefore, financially, it was a big stretch. And as an entrepreneur, managing risk, managing performance, making sure everything goes all right, managing people, when you start managing all of that, it really becomes quite substantial. But I was very insecure about the fact that, look, I've never done this. This is not my natural game, and I don't even know why I'm doing this. So I really went through a deep period of anxiety, fear, and therefore, rooted in insecurity. That, listen, I don't know how to do this. And what happened was that literally I would just keep reminding myself, and I think that's also where the title of my book came from, One Day at a Time. That, listen, I just need to take this one day at a time. And very quickly, I realized that it's okay, it's just another project to be managed in a logical manner, and it went off all right. The second insecurity, which I used to live with and probably still at some level do again in the professional context and the business context, is the government and bureaucracy. Um, I've had some very, very sharp experiences, right? Tough experiences, I would say, with the income tax department, where I'd shared with you in one of our talks earlier, where a corrupt officer, I refused to pay him 25,000 rupees, reopened 4 years of our assessment and the following 3 years. So for 7 years, we were in appeal only because I refused to pay 25,000 rupees. Uh, GST right now, we're grappling with a system glitch between two government portals, because of which we've been slapped with a huge kind of a notice that we have to pay something, which of course we've gone into appeal and we'll fight it out. In spite of best efforts, sometimes Yeah, and compliances can get a little complicated in this country. There could be an oversight, a genuine oversight. Unfortunately, the paradigm is that a mistake is construed to be that you are dishonest,
Yeah.
and it can, we're at the mercy of that officer whom we're dealing with, who can create a lot of problems for a small and medium business like us. So that insecurity was always there. And then one day I told myself, I said, look, I can't be living with this invisible fear all the time. So what I did two things, Ajit, or three things. One, just became paranoid about strengthening our internal governance and processes to a level where I said, look, we're going to be given a test, God knows when. We have to be always prepared, like the army, right? You never know when you'll be attacked. So I really got into, and I don't like the analogy because, you know, on one hand, I talk about love, but I really got into war mode. I'm like, listen, this is, the enemy can come anytime. We've got to be prepared all the time. And our answer is processes and governance. So that was fun. Second is I said, no matter what we do, we won't have all the answers. So I started now strengthening our ecosystem with great quality consultants and outsourced people. So it wasn't anymore the cost of the consultant, it was now the caliber of the consultant. So as an MSME today, we're dealing with people who much larger corporates would also tap into, because I've realized the value of quality. And the third is whenever I'm faced with a situation, whether it be the customs, GST, income tax, labor issue, or people issue, anything at all, right? I open myself up and talk to a lot of my peers, friends, who are in similar sized businesses or even larger businesses. And very often they may have been through that experience and I get some advice and guidance from them. So, in a way, these two insecurities that I had have gone away. And the blessing has been that because of them, I had to do certain things, bring about certain changes in myself and my organization. And we are much better off for it today.
Since you spoke about business, I've always have this question in entrepreneurship, and especially in the Indian context. Entrepreneurship is always about a certain amount of risk, right? It's always a calculated risk. How do you handle the fear of failure? And in the Indian context, the judgment from others. In our country, it's very difficult to fail and survive. So these are two big fears that I've always come across with entrepreneurs who don't want to take a risk, is because I don't want to fail, and if I fail, how am I going to be treated? How do you handle that big insecurity that we all live with?
So let me address the second one. You spoke about the judgment of others and how do you deal with that insecurity. And for me, I think I was very fortunate. This is one of the things my father taught me very early on in life. He said, look, don't ever get caught up in this thing about how you're being perceived. Please live your life by your standards. Don't feel the pressure to keep up with somebody. And if things don't go right, if people are being critical about you or are not thinking well of you, it doesn't matter, right? You work hard, work honestly, give it your best, and that's what matters. And he used to always tell me, uh, same principle but in a different way. And he said, listen, you have to learn to be as comfortable sitting in a five-star or in a Irani restaurant, as comfortable driving a Mercedes or sitting in a bus or a taxi. It shouldn't matter. Now that kind of got ingrained in me. So, that second insecurity which you spoke about, the judgment of others, that honestly doesn't bother me at all. And, I, and you know it, I would take Amal and Abir for breakfast every Sunday morning for years when they were in school. And in a way, the same principle. One day we'd go to a very nice place for breakfast, like an Indigo Delhi. And then the next Sunday we'd be sitting at Kiani Bakery, having our bun omelette and chai, sitting next to a taxi driver. And I told the boys the same thing, you got to learn to be as comfortable where you are. And your worth and value doesn't come from the way people judge you, it comes from your own integrity and inner security. On the first part which you spoke about, the insecurity of losses, losing, yes, risk is a big thing. And I'll be honest, when if the consequences were only for me personally, I don't think I'd care so much. But I will be honest with you that there's always that factor that, my family, the kids, the team, a lot of people are not dependent. And yes, there is always that thought. It is partly insecurity. So I keep checking in with myself. Where am I vulnerable? What changes are going to come which we're not prepared for? Uh, who are we overly dependent on? Am I too attached? So all the six things that I spoke about, I kind of do a check, with myself. And I think at the end of the day, the answer goes back to knowledge that even if things are not going my way, there's a learning in it and I can course correct. Second is, mom had once told me, you're never faced with a situation you're never capable of handling. And that principle, Ajit, even though philosophical, is as practical as anything else and can be. So whenever I'm faced with a situation, the first thing I tell myself is that if it's come to me, means it is meant for me and I'm capable of handling it. Now, if I'm feeling a little inadequate or overwhelmed, it's not the situation. I have to discover what is it in me that is still lacking, which I need to work on. And in and through that, at every opportunity, I've in a way tried to build myself internally. So that's how I handle it. I'm not saying that that's the way everybody can or should handle it. It's a very personal thing because these are emotions and feelings, but that's how I manage.
Vivek, as entrepreneurs, we always tend to, I mean, by default, tend to, over a period of time, get surrounded by entrepreneurs themselves. And here also comes a big question on peer pressure. And, sometimes you feel people whom you hung around with, they tend to move faster than you. They become bigger, they become better, they're more successful than you. Does that ever bring in insecurities in just comparing yourself? You know, that how did he get it right and why am I not getting it? Do you end up start judging yourself in that situation? Because they're two different domains, they're two different situations. So the question is, how do you handle those insecurities when you end up comparing yourself to entrepreneurs who are more successful?
So it does happen, right? I mean, we talk about each other's turnovers, profitability. Somebody got a valuation, somebody IPO'd, somebody did this, and obviously, right? And you say, like, wow, that person, and sorry, 10 years, 15 years back, I've known that person, and now suddenly that person is doing so well. And Ajit, for me, of course, it did happen. It's not that it's not happened, but I knew even early on that okay, this is really not this is not something I want to go down that path. And then one day I had a very interesting thought. I said, who is more successful, the eagle or the butterfly? Because the eagle is bigger, stronger, can fly faster, and can soar to a height which is unimaginable, right? Aspirational, eagle. And the butterfly is a little thing just floating around the garden from flower to flower and doesn't even have a lifespan of more than a few days, if I remember right. And then I said, hang on, they're both equally important. They both have a role to play. And it doesn't matter that somebody else is an eagle or somebody else is a butterfly. The question is, who are you? First, identify, am I an eagle? Am I a butterfly in that situation? And if I'm meant to play the role of a butterfly, let me not try and ape an eagle. And if I've been given the responsibility of being an eagle, let me not try and be in a little garden and just float around like a butterfly, right? Because I'll make myself miserable in both situations. And that, Ajit, gave me the perspective. Just like I've seen some of the best actors playing a role in a movie which is not the hero of the movie. It could be a character which that person was playing. I remember it was Amitabh Bachchan playing the role of a kind of a caretaker of the house in a movie. And I said, this is like the best actor in the film, but he's not playing the hero of the movie. He's playing that old hand in the in the house. So it's your performance that matters, and each one will be given, a script and a role to play, and we just need to play to the best of our abilities. So the moment you do that, you take away the pressure and the insecurity of comparison.
I posed this question to another entrepreneur friend, and like how you explained it now, he had a very interesting thing. He just told me, they're both important, right? So when you are happy and you feel successful, look at all those friends who are more successful than you and who have been done better than you. So it kind of gives you a measure of how successful you are and it keeps you grounded. And when you feel that there are lots of other people who are more successful and have gone way ahead, and that tends to demotivate you, take a pause and look behind and see how far you've come and how many people who are aspiring to be like you. That puts you in the right phrase. So he had a very nice way of saying it. They are both important and you need to keep a measure. They keep a measure and a check on you. I
Yeah,
thought that was a very interesting perspective to kill your insecurities. What do you think about it?
very nice. No, absolutely. I think the ability to be genuinely happy in somebody else's happiness and success when they are doing better than you, and to feel deep sense of gratitude when you see a lot of other people struggling, where you might have it relatively easier. This ability to genuinely feel happy in other people's happiness and success, and to feel a sense of gratitude with what's in place for me, I think keeps us grounded and then takes away that pressure of insecurity and comparison.
Amazing. Awesome. That was a beautiful discussion. And thank you so much, Vivek. As usual, every week we've had some great learnings. And to our viewers, we'd love to hear from you too. Join the dialogue. Share this if you like it on with your friends and get a feedback from them. Tell us your opinion on social media. Well, that's the time we've had for today. And we're going to catch up with you next week again with Life.ev, Life Exploring Values. Thank you, Vivek. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week, Saturday at 11 a.m. Thanks, Vivek. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take care. Thanks.